In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. We're back tonight with another film review, a legendary blood donor film review. Before we get into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on our website. All our episodes and interviews from the very first one to our newest ones. Check out our website if you want to listen. We have our store. We have some new t-shirts. They're awesome. Check those out. Shan's Etsy page is attached. Her tumblers are selling like crazy. Go check those out as well. And we also have all of our social media links on there. We love interacting with all of our fans, meeting new people, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I mean, heck, if it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't know Kevin. We wouldn't be doing this film review. So that's awesome. Definitely follow us.
Wouldn't know me either.
Oh, yeah. Heck, we wouldn't know any of each other without social media. So big shout out to social media for making this podcast. And I'm going to shout out our blood donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. None of that money goes into our pocket. It goes directly back into the podcast. We really appreciate all of our blood donors. We know times are tough right now. And from the bottom of our heart, thank you for helping us out. And we also have one-time donations. You're a big fan of a movie. You want us to review a movie. We have that tier available as well. Let's get into tonight's film review. 2014's As Above, So Below. I'll kick us off. Self-admitted, not the biggest found footage fan. But I will say that after my original watch, the first time I ever saw this movie, and the first rewatch for this week, I didn't really like this movie at all. Pretty much hated it. But I went to YouTube and I watched one of my favorite YouTubers, Found Flicks, his As Above, So Below Explained. And I had no idea this movie was intertwined or based off of Dante's Inferno. And hearing that explanation honestly made me appreciate this movie a lot more. So I'm excited for when Kevin jumps on the show that he's going to find out I really don't hate this movie as much as he thinks I do. So I'm not going to say I love it. I got my issues with it, and I'll touch on that at the end. But I'll say that after shout out to Found Flicks, because he honestly bumped this up about 2 to 3 points. So shout out to him. Brian, you want to go next? Thoughts on As Above, So Below?
Yeah, I love this movie. I think. But unlike other movies we differ on, like on the podcast, I 100% understand if anyone, doesn't like this movie. When we did The Shining, Nico said that this movie, quote, stuck with him, and that's my best description for this one for me. It's stuck in my head for weeks since I watched it first. I mean, ask the guys, I blew their phones up after watching it the first time, just because I felt like I needed to talk about it with somebody just to get my own thoughts on it, just out there. You know how you do that sometimes. Mm-hmm. It feels like this movie is just made for a particular audience, and I'm definitely in that audience. I mean, I love found footage. Check. And we've talked about religion on the show before and how Paranormal Activity, for example, sticks with me personally because of my belief in demons and such. But it's not just the found footage I like in this. And I'm not a scholar like Dustin, I think, given his background. But this kind of stuff really –
don't give me that much credit. Thank you.
But this kind of stuff really interests me, like the pyramids, especially those parts of the Bible that aren't really talked about in mainstream religion, like Revelations, and just the outlandish stuff, for lack of a better term, that's just like beyond my little mind's understanding anyway. Like, I know this is based off that 1314 poem, like Nico mentioned, Dante's Inferno, and somewhat on alchemy. And I know that at least Dante's Inferno is supposedly, quote, fiction, but is it completely? I mean, because if you believe in the Bible, then you take the weird too, and that includes the Tower of Babel, where supposedly they nearly accomplished building a tower to heaven. So if that's true, then you technically should be able to reach hell, right? I mean, again, I know I'm oversimplifying, but I mean, there's a hole in Russia that's the deepest hole ever dug on record. That's over 40,000 feet deep. It took them years to dig. And the locals swear that you can hear the screams of tortured souls, like from hell. Like, I mean, that shit interests me. So some of the scariest shit I've read and sought out are people's supposed, deaths and their short experiences in hell before they were brought back to life. It's terrifying to me. But anyway, I said all that to say this movie isn't perfect. I mean, there are a few aspects I don't like in it, but wow, what a pick, Kevin. What a pick.
Oh, yeah. So I've seen this movie one other time before watching it to do this show. I watched it twice in preparation. I like it. I don't love it, but I understand why someone would love it. This movie has a lot of layers, which you guys have touched on with Dante's Inferno and stuff. So really quick, just on base, like if you don't know any of that, I completely understand Nico's point of view. If you don't like found footage, there's a ton of shaky cam shit in this movie that pisses me off. Like, it's overboard. It really is. So just on camera style, even I get a little bit, let's stop moving the camera like this. And a lot of the stuff in the cave is just like every other cave movie you've seen until about the last 30 minutes or so. So I have some complaints just as far as the style of this movie and how it was made. However, when you tie in all the other layers that this movie is, comparing itself to, like we mentioned, Dante's Inferno, which I know, or at least I hope, Dustin really goes into that because he had he texted the group and pointed that out. And yeah, so it's an intriguing movie. I do think it's a little slow until about 35 to 40 minutes left. Then it really kicks up a notch. Like all the stuff Brian mentioned with the voices of souls in hell and all that stuff. All that stuff is really creepy, really eerie. This movie has some brutal deaths too. As far as when we get to the kills, like I think there was one in particular where I was like, oh, okay, goddamn. Hopefully y'all know the same one. I think homegirl got her ass. She was super dead. She wasn't just dead. She's super dead, as I like to say. So, but there's some good. It's not a perfect film, but I am glad we reviewed it. I watched this movie with my wife, who liked it more than I did, which surprises the shit out of me. So, good pick, Kevin. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, no hat. This is a pretty creepy movie. I liked it. I'd never heard of it before. Can't lie, but watched it, and so I like found footage when it's logical and when it's done right, and to me, that's what this one does. I don't mean to keep harping on one of Brian's favorite movies.
I knew Cloverfield was coming. I knew it.
but I mean, really though, this is logical. Like they went down there to study and to find things, so it makes sense that they would record their journey. In Cloverfield, some shit starts popping off. You're going to drop the camera, not calendar. What the hell? But you're going to drop the camera, and so I'm just glad my man Ben Feldman, like I said, I'm glad he got to be in a good found footage movie. Like you guys mentioned, as far as I also didn't know, even while I was watching it, I didn't pick up on it until I was reading about it after the fact. So how the Odyssey is to Oh Brother Where Art Thou, I can't talk tonight, but how the Odyssey is to Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Dante's Inferno and dark comedy is to As Above So Below. That's crazy. It's so well done in that regard. I thought that the characters, for the most part, were we didn't learn much about any of these people, but they did a good enough job of making me care about them and making them interesting to me, to where I was invested in each of their journeys down through hell. So Kevin, good pick. I'm glad you picked this. I'm glad you suggested it. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Will I watch it again? Probably the fuck not. Let's put it that way.
100%.
All right, guys. Any more opening thoughts before we jump into it? All right, let's get it. The film starts with Scarlett on a bus as she crosses into Iran. She says she believes a critical piece of her mission is in one of these caves. If she's found dead, she's in the country of her free will. She hugs Riza, and he tells her if they catch her, it'll be very bad. They move this desk out the way, and they climb down into this cave. They turn their lights off and hide as the authorities are searching the caves. A siren begins to blare, and Riza says, "We need to leave." She says, "We have a bit more time. I'm not leaving." She finds a wall with writing on it, and she begins hammering and chiseling it. The wall collapses, and she finds this big black stone bull called the Rose Key. She says she has to scan these markings. She can't leave. Riza says he has a family and I must leave. Be careful, he says. She reads the writings and takes off running. She sees a man hanging and suddenly the cave begins crumbling. She runs full speed calling out Riza's name. He calls for her and asks if she's okay. She climbs out the caves back into Riza's home. I got it, she says. He says she reminds him of her father so much, but this quest is madness. Title card. Benji says, let's start with your intro. She says her name and names off all the degrees she has, and she's fluent in 4 languages, and she has a black belt. Benji pauses, and she asks a man to step out of the camera view. She tells Benji he needs to learn French. He asks her about the Philosopher's Stone. She says it's the key to eternal life. He now asks her about her dad being mentally unstable. She asks why, because he killed himself? She's now taking us on a tour of Paris. 600 years ago, Nicholas Flamel lived here. He was the one who developed the Philosopher's Stone and all the wealth he could need and had eternal life. Grave robbers found he and his wife's graves, but they were empty. This is his tombstone he designed and carved himself. She says her father believed the clue is somewhere on this tombstone. She says she doesn't speak Aramaic, but she knows someone who does. She and Benji break into a church and climb to the top where George is working on this clock. How are you? She asks. He says, whatever it is, I want no part of it. He tells Benji to stay away from this one. He says, last time we were together, I ended up in a Turkish jail. She tells him she found the rose key. He's intrigued. He asks if it was in Iran. She tells him she needs help translating the Aramaic. He calls her a lunatic. Suddenly, the clock begins to work again. They walk out onto like this roof balcony and look down on the onlookers listening to the church bells ringing that haven't worked in 284 years. He tells her he'll help translate, but that's it. George gives him 10 minutes access to check out this tombstone, and George begins translating. Scarlett says he's carrying the key on his back, so they get the tombstone down and turn it over. She mixes some cleaning supplies, lights it on fire, and decodes a hidden message on the back. George reads the message off, and the two begin to discuss. Gates of Hell. Alchemists believe hell was 741 feet deep, and 370 feet is where the stone is. She says the catacombs here in Paris. George says there's 6 million corpses in the catacombs. They look at this map, and George tells of 3 collapses in the city. They assume there's a hidden chamber. George says he doesn't go underground. They're on a tour guide now, and Benji is creeped out by all the skulls. She points at a wall and says, we need to go half a mile through this wall. We need to find a way into the off-limits of the catacombs. A man says, go to a club called Le Showcase and ask for Papillion. He'll bring you. The tour guide tells him to catch up, and they look back, and the man's disappeared. They go to the club, and this creepy woman in a white dress walks out as they enter. We now see her outside the club watching them as they find Papillion. She asks him to take her into the catacombs. She shows him a map with secret tunnels, and she tells him it's full of treasure. He asks for half the treasure. Scarlett says you can have all of it, and he agrees to take them. And I'm sorry if I didn't do that justice. There is a lot of dialogue that goes on. So, Brian, what'd you think?
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so let me talk about Perdita Weeks' Scarlett real fast. Look, she had a great character arc in this movie, I thought. And I usually don't talk about the character arcs that much, but it really stood out to me in this one. She comes across here at the beginning as almost a, and I almost never use this term, but I can't really think of another one that fits. So Mary Sue. I don't know what other term to use because, I mean, she seems to have this like plot armor, especially at first, and consistently puts everyone in danger for her own motives. But again, and we will talk about it more along the way, but she ends up having a really great arc by the end of it. Now, my guy, Ben Feldman, making his 3rd appearance on DGOT after the GOAT Friday the 13th review and the 7 rated on IMDb with almost 400,000 votes. Cloverfield. Oh, thank you. I wouldn't say he has a good character arc.
Movie stinks.
Excuse me. You guys are alone in that. Excuse me. I wouldn't say he has a good character arc as much as I think that he had good character development. It's also worth saying that I brought up in, I think it was Friday the 13th, one of the 2 reviews. For the longest time, I literally thought he and Rookie of the Year, American Pie's Thomas Ian Nichols were the same person. Like I really did that. That's worth mentioning because, and Dustin said, yeah, because out of the blue in our group, he said the exact same thing watching this movie, just unprovoked and not even hearing me say that.
How dare you disparage the good damn name of Thomas Ian Nichols, you son of a bitch.
What?
He's had a hell of a
What?
career,
just
man. Went from
What
college
is
baseball.
what is wrong with Ben Feldman?
I like Ben
But
Feldman.
but I mean, seriously though, George, like it does not fit this character. By the way, that name, come on with that name. Like it should have just gone with like Henry Rowan Gardner or something. I don't know.
Rebel Rouser. Gardenhoser.
Gardenhoser. Yeah, there you go. A little fun fact right off the bat here: this nightclub that they're in when Scarlett's like looking for Papillon. Wow, Papillon is a real nightclub in Paris, and DJ Axiom was actually performing a set during the filming of this scene, which kind of brings me to a nitpick of mine here: Benji. Like his character is underdeveloped as hell, and I know I'm jumping to the end here, but his sin that he, by the way, like never had a chance to repent from at all was never said, but it's kind of greatly implied that it's something to do with this wide-eyed, like super white girl, right? Like the creepy girl that Nico mentioned. But from the nightclub and the signing, like the singing naked chicks, and obviously like when he gets killed, the only reason I bring it up here is why does he not recognize this girl who's obviously a manifestation, I guess, of everything? Like, or am I missing his complete? Am I missing it completely here? I don't know. Regardless, it would have been nice to get some sort of backstory or exploration with him a little bit. Instead, he's basically us. Like he's basically the audience member. Like he's asking questions so that they'll explain some of the stuff they know to kind of pass that along to us. And that's fine. He can be that conduit and still have some development is all I'm saying. The last thing I'll say is that it is cool as hell that this was the first ever production that secured permission from the French government to film in the real catacombs. The film utilizes a set of narrow, winding tunnels of the Paris catacombs, complete with real skeletons creepily arranged centuries ago. And this guy who tells Scarlett to like ask for Papillon, it took me my second viewing to even notice that that's another manifestation of that guy like later on that's attached to Papillon's past. I don't think that was necessary. Like, why couldn't it just simply be a dude who was on the tour that knew about Papillon's reputation? I don't think that was necessary at all. Like the whole looking back and seeing him disappear to me, I don't think that was needed. But anyway, sorry I talked so long. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Because I don't think my thoughts are as long, at least on not on these early sets of scenes. I do like this very beginning because I know I kind of complained about the movie moving a little slow, and it does. But this opening anyway, it's kind of still gives me that claustrophobic feeling that a normal cave movie would. So without even knowing any of this backstory, I'm at least intrigued by what's on my screen here. You called Scarlett a Mary Sue. She kind of has a similar-ish arc to Jessica Biel's character in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like she keeps kind of fucking putting people, other people in danger, and then we still kind of end up rooting for her at the end. So
you're right.
Very similar in that way. But a lot of this stuff, Nico mentioned, it's dialogue heavy. I do like the fact that we get to know Scarlett and this crew. Like I think it's a nice, it at least sets up me caring about them later. It's really interesting you mentioned them being able to get the approval to, film in France and stuff. Cause like that's, you go look at a movie like The Descent, Dustin's favorite, where they used a lot of like, fake holes they made out of plaster and green screen and all this other stuff. And so you just see the difference in how effects can really work as compared to the real stuff. So again, very, very creepy. But I'm not gonna lie, the scene in the club here got me. It's really hard to get me, and I mean really hard to get me to gotta go. Oh shit! Well, white girl with big eyes got my ass. I went, oh goddamn, what the fuck? So after I get got, I normally just laugh at myself. I'm like, oh you fuck. So like creepy moment, and I just knew that was going to come into play later. They would this movie would not just throw a random creepy looking girl on the screen. So, as you're getting through all this treasure and stuff, real quick, I want to go back one thing. I found it really interesting that they mentioned her dad, kind of being a treasure hunter and on this same grind that she's on, or at least in a similar vein. And that I also find it interesting they mentioned that he killed himself. And they really didn't tie that around until later, which I thought was really interesting. I'll get to that when it happens, but I like that tethered connection that we have there. So anyway, when they're trying to find this treasure, again, why pointed it out? It's hard to unsee now. Kind of looks like, when they're using all the keys and the liquid and all that stuff. It kind of looks like they're about to seal the Declaration of Independence. I'm not gonna lie. Like it has a very National Treasure vibe to it, which I love that movie, so that's fine. But like I couldn't separate the two. I know I'm watching a horror movie, and the movie's about to get creepy because, like you said, there's skeletons and they're in these caves and stuff. But I thought it was a good moment to laugh. So I like how this movie's making me feel. I do feel like all this dialogue is a little slow. You get some like early dissent between George and Scarlett about how he doesn't want to go down there and all of that stuff. So I think this set of scenes is fine. It just moves a little slow, in my opinion.
I can agree with that. So, like I mentioned, I love found footage when it's done right, and like I said,
as do I, by the way. As do I.
Yeah. I mean, it's fully practical here that they'd be recording, so that's fine. But once she's in the Iranian cave there, and she finds the rose key, like how did she just know that X means there's more behind it? Because to me, it doesn't seem like she could read that. She needed a translator. And so she just rubs her fingers across it like she's reading a Braille book. It's like, I got to go behind this. There's more. So I don't know. It just seems like she pulled the classic girlfriend in this movie. She was jumping to conclusions so much she about sprained an ACL. But it worked out in her favor most of the time. Most of her hunches were right, which is a little bit questionable.
So you're saying she had a jump to conclusions, Matt. This idea of yours, it's terrible. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So then when she's going through, I was a little confused by her seeing her dad hanging there. Like, I still don't really know. Like, was that a hallucination? Like, she just thought she saw it, or was that actually where her dad killed himself and his body was still hanging there? Because
I think that was a manifestation from the catacombs. I'm pretty sure.
But that was before she was in the catacombs, right?
I know,
like she saw that when they were.
Yeah, 100%. But apparently, that's the way I took it. Is like, I guess when she was in there finding that new text and that whole new stuff behind there, like that's apparently all part of this whole thing. So,
I mean, and I think you're right. I agree with you, but I wish they hadn't done that though, because at this point she wasn't deep enough.
Agreed.
It's not like she was on her way to hell right here, so I don't think that she should have been seeing that, and it didn't add anything to it. All I think it did was confuse the viewer.
I 100% agree with you too. 100%. I almost wrote that, and then I kind of thought, well, I mean, there are other demonic places and demonic things, so I was like, just fuck it. So, but I agree with you.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not bad. It was unnecessary. So, and then I texted you. I was like, "Damn, we get Nicholas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone. Where's Ron, Harry, and Hermione? Like, what the hell?" So far we've got National Treasure. We got Harry Potter, and then later we get some very creepy ass Indiana Jones style caves and traps. Yeah. So it's like this is just the greatest hits movie. George, my man, you should have stuck to your guns with that. No, you should have just nope. And meant stick to your guns.
I would have just turned around.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got me arrested in Turkey. I spent a week in jail in Turkey, and you're trying to get me to do something I do not want to do. And from what I gathered, you're not my girlfriend, you're not my wife, you're not my fiance. I'm good. No, best of luck though. And then here they are in the church, and he's working on the bell, and they start cussing in a church. Damn heathens. But so it's kind of like, they kind of brought this upon themselves, what they're getting into. You can't cuss in God's house. So when they go to the museum there, and she's working on the back of the tablet there, the tombstone, there just happened to be a cleaning cart sitting there with the exact chemicals she needed. I mean, that's a little sus. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of unbelievable how well things work out for her in certain spots in this movie. But
exactly, she's got that plot armor. That's exactly why I said that.
Yep, you're right. The catacombs looked awesome, and then finding out that was like legit skulls and bones that had been arranged like that so many years ago, added to it. Chef's kiss, that was great. And then They're walking through, and then where the hell did this guy come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from, Cotton Eye Joe? Like, he just shows up, eavesdrops, and disappears.
Are you saying that you don't get that reference?
That's not a country song, brother. That's the Rednecks. They're from America. And there is a bar in Knoxville, Tennessee called Cotton Eye Joe, though. So next time you're in town, we'll go. But no, so this is another thing. I don't think. Okay, so it comes to find out that was also a manifestation, but now I'm a little bit confused about this too, because were they deep enough in for it to start affecting them, or I don't know. I'm a little confused on the rules, but I guess when Satan plays by his own rules, so maybe that's the point. Maybe I don't have to understand it. I can accept him being there and doing that more than I can her dad being in Iran hanging in the cave. Yeah. So that's fine. And then my initial thoughts was like, what the fuck kind of club is this? Like, this is some creepy ass music. I know Europeans are a little bit different than America is and what they listen to in the club. Like, the music is completely different. Pop culture is completely different. So maybe it's a culture thing, but that sounded like some fucking industrial Eastern German music than it did some French nightclub music. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But then finding out that was a real DJ, I was like, holy shit, these people really go to the club and listen to that. Like, that was a mind blow. But overall, it's a decent set of scenes that laid the groundwork, let me know why they're going to be doing this. But I agree with what you said, Mike. Like, it did drag on a little long. First time I watched it, it almost lost my interest just because I was like, let's get to it. But watching it through on the second time, I picked up on so much more. I appreciate it so much more. So I think it's just one of those intros that's necessary, and you just need to make yourself pay attention because it's going to pay off.
Oh, yeah. Papillion is now handing out supplies, and George says he's not going. She can text the info for translation. No cell phones. They won't work. The ground is too dense. Papillion introduces us to Zed the Climber and Souxy the Banshee. Benji asks her, what's the dangers down here? She says if you run out of battery, you will die. If you run out of water, get hurt. Zed now says there's water, there's rats, there's claustrophobia down there. Papillion says we have to exit the van quick. If police catch us, we're fucked. They walk down this trail in old abandoned train track. They stop and put their headlamps on and enter this dark tunnel. George says he's not going, and Scarlett gets him to join a little longer. Benji checks the cameras on their headlamps. Scarlett begs George to join as they are ambushed by a policeman. George enters the tunnel with them as Papillion fights the officer off him and throws a smoke bomb. Benji gives George a headlamp and he storms away. Scarlett tells Benji his brother drowned in a cave. She tells him she's really glad he's here, but my man is pissed he's here. Papillion leads them now as we see his trademark Pap signature graffiti. George says he should have worn boots as they walk through some nasty looking water. Pap shows them some hot candles, so that means there's some people down here. They look into a crevice and see these people dressed in white performing a ritual, as the woman from the club makes eye contact with them creepily. Papillion shows them a tunnel they have to use, and it's covered in bones. George says, I'm not a tour guide. He says, no one uses this corridor. People who use this tunnel don't come back. He snaps, yelling, which ones are filled with water, which have collapsed. He now tells them of La Taupe, their friend who knew the place better than anyone. He knew that corridor was evil and hasn't been since he explored them. Zed now fucks with him as he's the first to go through the tunnel. Worst case scenario now as Benji gets stuck. Scarlett tries to calm him down and guide him, but he begins to panic. He yells out, why are they singing this song? And he begins to hyperventilate. He calms down and moves the bones around, and the tunnel begins to collapse. Benji crawls out frantically and to safety. Scarlett now notices she thinks they've went in a circle, and they begin to push Papillion around, but Scarlett calms him down. He's very confused. They push these rocks down and enter a new tunnel. They find another Pap graffiti, and he says, again, I swear I've never been here before. They now hear a phone ringing. Papillion says they used to run phone lines down here, but 50 years ago they took all the equipment out. George shows Scarlett a spot where the ground collapsed into the ground. Papillion says when they went to fix it, 50 more people disappeared. They find a random piano, and George says we had a piano just like this. Danny would play it all the time, the one song he knew, but couldn't finish it because the A4 key was broken. The same key is broken on this piano. George asks what's going on. Papillion says we shouldn't be here. Phone rings again as Scarlett takes off to find this ringing phone. She answers it and the voice says, why won't you talk to me, Scarlett? and she now hears the man groaning. A man appears saying, "You shouldn't be here. It's Latope." He says, "You never even came to look for me." "Come," he says, "you are looking to get out." Latope now begins to guide them out. They're amazed he can see in the darkness. He says, "Only way out is down." They move these boards out the way so they can descend down this tunnel. Scarlett says, "If we find this hidden chamber, we'll find our way out." All right, Brian, that's the next set of scenes I got. What'd you think?
So, all right. So the girl that played Souxy, Marion Lambert, like this is actually her first credit, and she's actually only, I think, done only one other credited thing at this point. But I kind of feel the same way about her as I do about Benji. Like, at least just give us one line maybe that could have been thrown in there to help us out later about her past. I mean, she's just very underdeveloped, in my opinion. So that's all. I also have so many questions about this fucking tackle that's straight out of the water boy. First off, that dude came out of fucking nowhere coming in with that targeting penalty. But so we are to believe that, first of all, they know about this hole, the police, I mean, and nobody tries to fill it in if it's illegal. Also, what happened to the cop? Like, how did Papillon even get away from him and get in the hole to even lay a smoke bomb? And what the hell would a smoke bomb even do? Are there like more than one way to go? So that a pursuing policeman wouldn't get lost. I mean, for that matter, why did he not chase them at all? I had so many probably useless questions, but hey, I mean, that's what I'm here for, right? Any French listeners that would like to help me out with that would be great. Maybe the police are just different there. I honestly don't know. But director Jean Dowdle, I think, did a good job filming down here. Mike mentioned it earlier, but I agree. I have written down right here that there's a lot of Descent vibes, especially starting right here. It does a good job of making you feel claustrophobic watching it, which I know is a fear of a ton of people, including myself, more so as I've gotten older. But anyway, last thing. Okay, so once they go into the Forbidden Corridor, they apparently enter the first circle of sin, which is Limbo, which is like between heaven and hell, where they find Latope. Apparently, Limbo is where, like Dante's Inferno said, that people go that didn't necessarily sin, but that also weren't baptized. Something I wish I didn't have to go research to get an explanation for, by the way. I wish they would have had a line in here somewhere kind of explaining the level of hell that they were on. And also, like, so go ahead, Dustin. You going to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I hear you. I understand that. But at the same time, I'm glad they didn't over-explain it because, again, I likened it to Oh Brother Where Art Thou. If they would have done that in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, I didn't know for the longest time that was the Odyssey, a modern take on the Odyssey. But finding out after the fact just made me appreciate it so much more, just like finding out about the Dante's Inferno and what each level was. It made me appreciate it so much more because then on that second watch through, I was like, holy shit, that makes sense why he's stuck there. So that's I get what you're saying, and
that's fair.
I can agree to an extent, but I think it just made my research. So I think, but the lore and the legend of Oh Brother Where Art Thou being the Odyssey, like it spread like wildfire. Like once one person heard, like, oh my God, you know that this was Homer and blah blah blah. So I don't think that this one has that aura and that lore that spreads it like that. But if it was common knowledge, like Oh Brother Where Art Thou in the Odyssey, I think that it would be more acceptable.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I think I guess it's just kind of a preference thing. But anyway, like we get some of the character development here, right here with for George, and some more backstory on Scarlett. But really, nobody else here in this whole Limbo stage gets anything. And while we're here, okay, let me get this out here too. Why is Scarlett and George's sin even a sin? Like they didn't do anything to me. Like they have guilt from family members' deaths, but I mean, what Scarlett did, she didn't answer the phone. Okay, like how is that her fault? And Danny was a kid who went to get help. I mean, how is that his fault? Like, I mean, these pale to me in comparison to what they imply that the others did. I mean, I don't know. I'm a little confused there with that. It just seems a little silly, but like, I just wish that the writers would have maybe made their sins a little bit worse. I mean, they had they could do whatever the fuck they wanted to. So, I don't know. I don't know why they chose to kind of go with those quote unquote sins for those people. So, anyway, that's all I had. Go ahead.
Brian, you mentioned, I'm glad you said it this way. You mentioned being in a limbo stage. I kind of feel, like a limbo stage in hell, as far as the levels. I kind of feel like we're in limbo as a viewer in this set of scenes. And I really only say that because while there's stuff going on there's not a lot going on until we get that character development with George and Scarlett. Like, I'm not saying that, again, there's absolutely nothing, but like you're just kind of walking through caves at this point. Again, very much like early Descent vibes, which I complained in that review, if you go back and listen, about them taking a little too long to get to what we're here for. And so I understand it in hindsight when you go back, knowing the Dante's Inferno stuff. But this set of scenes, it didn't take me out of it, because it certainly, once you get the claustrophobia feel and you get the character development with the piano, which I think is a great scene, by the way, like just as far as like good character development for George, and finding out about why that's important, and how that ties into Danny, and you get the phone call, which is super creepy, with Scarlett. That's one of the creepier things in the movie to me, right, just because that's haunting. And again, I wrote down pretty much the same thing though, Brian. Why are those two involved here? And again, not to spoil the ending, but I guess that's why they make it. Like I don't know, like theirs isn't as bad as everything else. George probably should have died, but anyway, it's one of those things where I'm not bored, but I talked about this, I believe, in Cloverfield, where I have a really hard time taking notes on stuff where it's just people talking. There was some funny stuff and some good lines, and there's some stuff that make, on a rewatch, you're like, that's fucking creepy. But like nothing in particular sticks out to me except the end of the scenes where, they're kind of, moving the boards and, trying to get a way out, and everything's starting to look the same and all that stuff. So your typical cave movie stuff. But again, I don't have a whole lot of notes until we get to the next set where things really start to kick up, become a little more eerie and supernatural, for lack of a better term, stuff like that. But that's pretty much all I had. Is I thought it was fine. I just think, like you mentioned, them being in a limbo stage, I feel like as a viewer we are as well.
Yeah. All right. So another instance, like I'll just reiterate, George really should have said no and meant it. Like, that man is a pushover. He should not have ended up down here. But I thought it was weird when they got in the van. Like, it was weird for him to ask Zed about the scar on Pepian's hand, because like it was just mentioned there, and the scar never came up again. Like, why? It was just pointless to me. And then they're in this van, and this is just a candid question: is there anything worse in the world than people beatboxing and freestyling? No one wants to hear that shit, man. Take that to SoundCloud.
Bro, I used to hate that shit in middle school. Sidebar: kids used to beat on the tables at lunch, like they were fucking, making a good beat, and people would try to rap over it. Man, get the fuck out of here. It's goddamn seventh grader.
See, the thing is, 7th grade is a good place to leave those kind of behaviors.
Exactly.
I had a group of friends. I have a group of friends that there's a friend of a friend that sometimes comes around, and this guy, we call him Pre-Malone because he looks like a homeless Post Malone, if Post Malone didn't look homeless enough. And that's like his favorite thing to do. When we're all drunk as shit, he'll just like put on instrumentals on YouTube and just start to rap. And I'm like, God, all right, that's my cue to go.
Boo.
Anyway,
that's the guy that plays the guitar in the corner. Oh wait, that's me.
That cop had some great form on that fucking tackle, man. He brought the hips. Holy shit. If this was, mid to early 2000s, he would have been on ESPN's Jacked Up, because that was a great tackle. So then when they get down in there, down where they're going, they're on their way. Don't like this chanting and singing. Don't like that one bit. Nope. Yeah. That is creepy as hell. Yep. Fuck that. Like, that was my first taste of, oh God, no, I'm gonna hate this movie, ain't I? I was like, yep. That was just so unnerving, man. They look creepy as hell. Just don't like it one bit. So yeah, I like the explanation of Lataupe and letting us know that way is evil. Like, you could tell Pap was legit freaked out and concerned, did not want to go down that way is evil. We know, I thought that was great acting, great storytelling there. When Benji got stuck in the crawl space, I was like, shit, man, here we go. We're 35 minutes into the movie, and they're already killing off the black guy. What the fuck? But that scene was claustrophobic as
Yes, it
fuck.
was.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it to me wasn't necessarily the fact that he was stuck and the bones rattling, it sounded like he was going to collapse. It was the fucking singing and chanting in the background. Like, it just made it so much worse, man. And it sounded like it was getting louder. Like, I was just like, God, man, please get out of here, please. But anyway, you mentioned the claustrophobia. So yeah, Ben Feldman actually suffers from mild claustrophobia, and he had to keep taking breaks.
I just sat in a corner and cried. Fuck that.
So yeah, this scene right there, I'm sure he couldn't even watch it on the playback because that was so uncomfortable watching Benji struggle there. Right about here is where I'd be going back to where I came from. Because, okay, when they crawl through, they come back into the other side. So I guess that tunnel is where things start to get flippy and or whatever. But I'm sorry, I probably would just be like, if that's the way I got to go, I'm just gonna leave because nothing had happened at this point. Doors aren't disappearing yet.
Right.
Nothing is really preventing them other than there might be a cop on the other side of this hole when I crawl out. I'd rather go to jail than hell.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but
No, I'm with you.
I'd be leaving. And then they start walking down, and then now there's a phone ringing. No,
No.
turn it around. Even if I'm not getting out, I'm at least trying. They didn't even fucking try. That was just so, the phone. And then the piano from George's childhood is like, especially when he realizes that's the same key that was messed up on his. Like, nah, they didn't act freaked out enough. They were a little too cool about it for me.
Agreed.
What the fuck? I would have been losing my shit.
Mm-hmm.
I might have even killed myself right then.
Holy shit.
Fuck this. But anyway, so then about this phone though, like the phone keeps ringing. And the rings get closer and closer together like contractions. So whatever's about to be birthed on the other line of that phone is not good. But there's no phone line ran to it, but it's still ringing. And then you pick it up and the voice knows your name. Why aren't they freaking out more? No. And then Latope, like, okay, I get it. You know this guy, he's your friend, but he's just creepy as hell. Has he always been like this? Like, I'm asking this point, has he always been like this? And if they say, yeah, I'm like, okay, I get it. But if they're looking to get out, why did they not go back where they're trying to come from? Because like when they realize, oh, we circled all the way back around, the escape is through there. No, man, the escape is right back where you came. You came in through an entrance. It wasn't one way only. They don't have tire spikes down that's going to, cause you have blowouts if you go back that way. Go back. I was actually frustrated with the characters at this point. Don't go down there. That's their podcast. Fucking idiots.
Hey, really quick before you go, Nico, man, it's not that I didn't like all of this stuff that you just mentioned. It's not that I didn't like that stuff, but there's part of me while I'm watching this part of the movie before stuff starts to get a little flippy and things start disappearing and a telephone shows up. But there's a chunk of this set of scenes where I'm like, man, this is every other fucking cave movie I've ever seen. Like every other cave horror movie, there's a claustrophobic scene. There's, this tunnel's a little tighter than that tunnel. There's, weird looking water, all this other stuff. But it's not that none of that's good. It felt a little like, God damn, I've seen this before until we get to, singing and chanting and fucking a phone call and all, So to me, when I'm watching the movie, it's not that I don't like it. I'm just feeling like it's a little monotonous. Now, once you learn this Dante's Inferno, and once you learn what they're going through, and you get all the creepy stuff that Dustin just mentioned, I would have noped the fuck out of there big time. Speaking of Nope. That's why Jordan Peele literally named his fucking movie Nope, because that's what I would have done. Bye. See ya. I'm out. I would have turned around. Every now and then I get a little bit lonely. You never come around. That's all I'm saying.
Turn around.
Every now and then. Okay.
Every now and then I want to fuck. I can't sing that song without thinking of, what is it? That's old school, right? Yeah.
I want
the damn band.
I was about to say it's
fucking
a great power
need you
ballad,
now.
but
Okay.
Dustin chimed in. All right, they begin to go down this tunnel, and suddenly Benji falls on George, and his hands are severely hurt. He says his clip broke, and Scarlett bandages up his hands. Suddenly, they can't really hear sound, and the tunnel shakes. We see a little boy, and Latope says the question isn't what was that, but who was that. Papillion says he isn't the same and doesn't know if we should trust him. They reach a dead end, and George shows Scarlett the vulture carving. They begin to talk about ancient Egypt, and they have to solve this riddle. If they get it wrong, the ceiling will collapse on them and kill them. They pull the seventh stone out after determining that's how many planets the Egyptians acknowledged. This is the first time someone has shown light into this tunnel in 500 years. Oh my God, she says. There's Flamal on a table who has died but not decayed any. Vitriol. It's the motto of alchemy. Scarlett says she thinks they need to go deeper into the earth. She says for everyone to turn off their headlamps. She finds light and swims through a little canal and finds the room with the treasure. Scarlett hugs George, saying it's real. The others swim across and are ecstatic when they see the treasure. George asks how these torches are still lit. She says the Philosopher's Stone can light a torch for eternity. She breaks down this hieroglyphic and pries the stone out. She yells out for them to stop. It's a trap. They pull the barrier down to the treasure and the tunnel collapses on them. They can't find Souxy at first. Then they pull the rocks off of her and sit her down. Souxy's arm is fucked up, and they realize all her supply bags are trapped under the rocks. Scarlett uses the Philosopher's Stone on her arm, and it completely heals. They use the stone on Zed's nose now. Scarlett says they'd never build this without a way out in case the roof collapsed. This picture is, as above, so below. The phrase is believed to be the key to all magic. Basically, as I believe the world to be, it is. Scarlett takes a rock and bashes it on the ground, opening up a new tunnel. It's our way out, she says. She tells them there's a passage down here. They find a message, and George says, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. The inscription over the gates of hell. Papillion says,
Nope,
he ain't going. Big Papillion vibes at Dustin's house. And they shall be made to crawl on their bellies into the kingdom of darkness, Scarlett says as she crawls down the tunnel. They find a room that's the wrong way around as the last room. The tunnel they just crawled through is now sealed suddenly. They now swim through another passage, and it gets dark, and there's a screeching. They make it out, and they see Flamal again on a table, who has rotted this time. They also see Latope, and Souxy approaches him slowly. Latope stands up, scaring them, and he grabs Souxy by the throat and slams her head into the ground repeatedly, killing her. Latope is gone now, and they try to use the stone on her to cure her, but Scarlett says it can't bring back the dead. They console Papillion, and he places his jacket over her face. They keep moving, and George says everything seems like the mirror image of what we've already done. We just keep going deeper. They go down another tunnel, and they call for Benji. He's the last to go down, but keeps hearing noises. A woman with a baby appears, scaring Benji, and he falls to his death. Scarlett is devastated, but they say we must keep moving. They crawl through another tunnel of bones, and George now sees his brother Danny drowning below him. George yells out his name and moves the bones, and Scarlett tells him that it's not real. And the next set of scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so this is a set of scenes where the movie really starts to fuck with me. Like, as they start to go further and further to the different levels.
Great. This is where it gets great, right here.
I wouldn't say great. I mean, shit, I don't know. But as they get, kind of start to go further and further at different levels, I would have maybe liked to have seen a little bit better representation of the different levels, though. Actually, upon further review, maybe I wouldn't have liked to have seen that. This has fucked with me enough as it was. But what I mean was, like, there was nothing really for the example for the lust level. But there were some screams in the background. And my man, poor Benji. Like, that dude almost gets caved in as soon as they get in there, last set of scenes. I mean, my guy has his hands burned, and then he takes this fucking tumble. I mean, thanks, I think, to that lady, which I assume that's the same lady from the beginning. I don't know if we decided on that or not, but that's the way I took it. But I mean, look, he has had a bad fucking day. Just let's throw that out there. The greed circle of hell, though, I have the biggest issue with, I think, in this movie. Like, it's very, and Dustin mentioned it, but I haven't written down the same exact thing. It's very Indiana Jones, like Indiana Jones and the Philosopher's Stone or whatever. I realize how grounded in alchemy, like, the whole stone thing is. But for me, don't let the stone have powers in this movie. Like, to me, it just ungrounds this, if it makes sense. Like, for me, I realize that it only has powers once because it's a fake. And by the way, is that even anything they explained? Like, that it would only have one, or did I read that too? They did say that in the movie, right? That it would only work once. I think they did. I don't remember. I know I read it, but I couldn't remember if it said it or not. So, all right, this is the last thing I have to say. But I think just judging on y'all's reactions, you kind of feel the same way. But the scene where they read the inscription over the entrance to the gates of hell, and then they're like quoting it as they crawl on their bellies to enter the kingdom of darkness, like there was this like giant weight that just felt like it was sitting on me watching it. Like it was making me feel like I was there with them. Like a movie hasn't made me feel like this in a long time. And that scene was just so powerful to me. It was one of those ones that just like it stood out to me more than any scene in the whole movie. Like for the first time, you could see Scarlett actually get worried, and I was like, "Yeah, Scarlett, me too, dude, me too." Like, and this is where it really starts to get intense. Papillon had like such a good reaction, and one that I think I definitely would have had too, where he said like, well, the first thing he was like, "Are we dead?" Like,
Yeah.
and then like, man, them huddled up after like just that pitch black, hearing the moans, the screaming in the darkness. That shit was terrifying for me. Like, then we get Souxy's death, which is my favorite of the movie. God, it was so violent. Like, I'm not sure which circle they're in here, whether it was wrath or whether it was violence. But either way, Souxy never got to repent for whatever sin she was being punished for. Never had the opportunity. But man, so violent. And it looks so real with her laying there as they were trying to bring her back. Amazing work on the makeup there. I'm going to slaughter this name, but the makeup effects supervisor was Olivier Afonso, which also did a movie called Girls with Balls. Go ahead.
Wait.
Sports. It was like a basketball movie or something, but anyway.
Yeah, so like we both already mentioned, man, this is where the movie kicks up. I mean, this is where I really start to lock in and get into this. And to me, this set of scene, from this point on, it works as a really scary, good horror movie and as, an allegory or another retelling of Dante's Inferno. So I think this is a really good double play, double-edged sword that you have here. You get Benji's clip breaking, which that's some serious rope burn, my man. I mean, that looked nasty. I'm telling you, these people are tougher than me. I would have cried like a little bitch if I had that rope burn for a long ass time. And you get the wound with Souxy. Excuse me, I'm gonna screw her name up because I keep just wanting to call her Susie. But
how very American of you.
I know, I'm the fucking worst. I understand. Trust me, I kept saying it in my head so I would get it right, but it just keeps coming out Susie like I'm from fucking Florida or something. Anyway, but them trying to heal that wound, I'm like, oh shit, what do we? The first time I ever saw it, I'm like, what the fuck do we have here? And it had been a while since I'd seen it, so upon rewatch, I'm like, oh goddamn, what's going on here? But I thought, that was really cool. And again, when you know the backstory, makes it even cooler. But so this just starts to turn it up to a new level. Creepy stuff starts to happen, man. And I'm with you, Brian. This Souxy death is fucking phenomenal to me. It is brutal. It's violent. It's the one where I mentioned earlier, I was like, oh shit, she's super dead. Because man came in and pop, pop, pop. She ain't got nothing left. Like, yeah, I thought it was really, really well done. So, I mean, brutal death, and we're getting the story. You mentioned the scene where they're quoting the scripture and they're at the gates of hell, and that is just so eerie and so well done. It pulled me back in. Not that I was not paying attention or not really grasping it, but at this point, I am like, what the fuck is going on here? And I just thought, really well written, really well acted and performed, especially by the woman that plays Scarlett. I think you start to see her expressions change significantly here. I mentioned the Jessica Biel arc in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's like, oh, come on, guys, it's going to be fine. Let's do this. It'll all be fine. And then like half the people are dead. And then you realize, oh, fuck, this is kind of my fault. I let everybody here. I have to fix this. And so you could just kind of see her get worried in that same vein. Poor Benji never had a chance. Dustin mentioned it. At least they didn't kill my man first. They gave some other people death first before they killed my guy Benji. R.I.P. man. Another pretty good looking kill. Like, it wasn't anything like super violent or anything, but it looked super realistic. Like, that's how someone that falls to their death would look, in my opinion. So Look, man, I'm a big fan of this set of scenes. There's a lot of stuff I left out that Brian mentioned, so I don't want to double down, but just some really creepy vibes and stuff. Doors start to disappear, and we're seeing everything in circles, and that is the claustrophobic part where shit. It's like being lost in the woods. Did we already pass that tree? I think we already passed that tree. It's kind of that same vibe. And that works as a standalone horror movie and the play on Dante's Inferno. So job well done. Last thing, George seeing Danny, that not hallucination, but kind of, beneath that, pile of bones, that's tough, man, because you it's fake, and Scarlett knows it's fake, but he saw it and he's trying to save him, and he's kind of out of his mind as well. So I really like that scene. I think it's well acted and well written. So this scene, or this set of scenes, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, same. I mean, well, I can't say I enjoyed them, but
maybe that was
well
a poor
done.
word usage, but I think you know what I mean. Like I'm in now.
Yeah.
Like the next 35 minutes, I'm all in on this movie.
Yeah, for sure. So the sound going out and then changing, getting really loud and intense was weird to me. I was going to say this for the end, but I'll just go ahead and do it now, so I can go ahead and explain that as well as the other levels of hell here. So the first one, like we mentioned, is Limbo. That's where they find Latope, and he's wandering in Limbo. He hasn't done enough bad to go to hell, but he hasn't been redeemed, so he's stuck in Limbo. The second level here, this is Lust. And lust is explained as, excuse me. Okay, so when they climb down to that second floor, the sound is all muffled, and then it gets very loud and intense, and it hurts their ears. The sound is compared to that of a tornado or a vortex. In Dante's Inferno, Dante climbs down to Lust, the second circle of hell, where a vortex spins, it forever swirling souls around for eternity. So that's what that sound was.
What does that have to do with lust? Why do they call it lust?
Okay, so that's just a part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I read more. I didn't write it down because it wasn't really.
Sorry, I literally didn't know, so that's why I was asking. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, so lust here says almost completely colorless tunnels, the loud vortex of souls, the hissing of Minos in Italian inscriptions. I didn't write it down, but there is more to what lust has in Dante's Inferno. Yeah. But it wasn't relevant to their journey through hell, so I didn't write it down.
They just chose to not show that in this movie or
yes,
portray it. Okay.
Yes, but because they weren't afflicted by each floor, if you'll notice either. It's only the way my take on it is your hell is what is relevant to you, what would afflict you. Specifically, it's not just a generic hell for everyone; it's your personal hell as well, and so that's how I took it. The third floor, greed. This is where the treasure is, and it's set as a trap. The fourth floor is anger. Fifth floor is heresy. Then violence, where Benji is shoved by the woman. Also, where Scarlett's father's hanging. It's said that in this level, in the violence level of hell, there's a woods of suicide, and this is where all suicides go. Because that's considered violence against thyself. So that's the reason her dad was there. The next floor is fraud. This is where Benji died. And then the last floor is treachery, where Satan himself resides. So there's the levels of hell. And as we go through them in this movie, on this journey, it makes a lot of sense, and it's honestly creepy as hell. So back to my notes here. Who the fuck is this little kid, man? Like, that was my first thought. So I was walking through, and then he turns to the left, and shit, there's a little kid there. Where the fuck did he come from? He's standing there. And so that's what confused me at first, especially when they see, what we learn. I guess that's his little brother, but he wasn't drowning there. He's just standing there.
Oh, wait. I think, isn't that the... Okay, so maybe I was confused. That's George's little brother, because I thought it was the dude who survived, and he was the one that had that kid that he, disowned. That he didn't even make. I thought that was him that looked at it.
You could be absolutely right. You're talking about Zed. Zed. Was Zed the one that saw it? I don't remember.
I thought it was Zed. Maybe,
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense then. But that kid looked very Caucasian, and I think Zed's like biracial.
No.
That's the reason I thought it was Georgia. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. Either way, who the fuck was that kid? That was creepy. These motherfuckers sure do know how to solve riddles. They would set records in an escape room. Did anyone else think that? Like, if these guys just committed their time to go into escape rooms, they would set records. Holy shit. Once again, though, they're way too calm for this situation. Like, finding a dead body down here that hasn't been decomposed, that would have me bugging the fuck out. And they're just like, dead body. Cool. And the only one that had a problem was like, hey, don't turn the lights on. There's a dead body here. Even the way he said it, it's like, dude, come on. Like, that. Are you sure the body's even dead at this point? And then, like I said, this is a very Indiana Jones feeling room with the treasure and the trap and all that shit. But it worked. Whatever. It's the greed room or greed level. Whatever. I thought the effects on the wounds in this movie looked great. Like all the injuries, they looked great. The blood looked like blood. It wasn't the wrong shade of red. Fantastic. I can't wait to hear Mike with the budget because they spent it well in this. And I'm curious. I can't imagine it had a terribly large budget either. Excuse me. And then, if I saw the literal gate of hell, no.
Right.
I probably just have to post up right there and starve to death if nothing else. Like I'm not going in there. I'm not. But I guess if you are going through hell, just keep on going. You might get out before the devil even knows you're there.
Telling me you don't understand the reference?
Wow. Was that country?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
And then, damn, man, Latope smashed the fuck out of her head. Like, I can't lie. It was brutal. But
he laughed.
Like he bashed her fucking head in the ground, man. Like that was brutal. Maybe I need a therapist.
I agree with you, Dustin. By the way, there's about 3 parts in the set of scene where I just would sit in a corner and wait on impending death. I mean, there's really no point in continuing this journey.
No. Especially like if I'm gonna start doing math in my head. And I'm thinking, okay, there's 5 of us left at this point. 6 of us, maybe, however many. We're not all going to make it. It's probably not going to be me. I'm going to be honest with you because I'm going to start freaking out more than these guys. They're going to keep cooler heads and probably be able to think logically. I'm going to freak out. I'm going to die. So I'm just going to sit right here and take my chances. We get the random noose that shows up and then disappears again. Like that was trippy. Nice little foreshadowing of, okay, it's starting to fuck with her. Like she's seeing things now. And then the jump scare that got me and that got you, Brian, because when you texted, that was a hell of a jump scare, and you told me how much time was left in the movie. When this happened to me, I paused it and I was like, okay.
Oh, shit.
Like, no, I waited. It happened. And once it happened, I was like, that's got to be the one he was talking about. I was like, yep, it was. Okay. But then Benji just falling to his death. The first thought I had was, whoo. He ain't gonna be in Rush Hour 3, but holy shit, what a scene! Like that was crazy. I like how it was shot. How he's up top and he's freaking out. He's panicking. He's trying to get down there, and he sees apparently that's the same woman that he saw when they were in the club. The woman that walked by the window on the outside.
So it was the same woman. But why the hell didn't he recognize her if that's supposedly his baby mama or whatever?
Well, yeah. See, I don't know that it was. I just read that it was, and it wasn't like an official. It was one of those trivia things, and so I don't know if that was actually who it was, but I think it was. So what I would have liked to have done when they're back in the club is the camera, whoever's holding the camera. Well, Benji was the one recording there, so I guess you couldn't do it. But I would have liked the camera to bend on his face and him look like confused, like he saw a ghost or something. That would. Like, I don't know. You don't even have to acknowledge that he looked confused. But show the woman walk by the window, then the camera goes to Benji, and he looks like, what the fuck? And that would make it make more sense when he sees her here. Or if it is the same person.
I think that's the same one that was leading the naked chant, right? Like the same girl, too?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't like that, the way that was done either, honestly, because it wasn't abundantly clear. She had, red makeup across her eyes or whatever and looked all methed out. I don't know. Was it the same woman? But regardless, I like how it's shot here. I didn't know a jump scare was coming. But once it happens, you're like, shit, I should have saw that coming because it's a horror movie after all. but it was a very well done jump scare. She comes out of nowhere, and then I guess she shoves him. But my favorite part about it is how we don't see him fall down the tunnel. We just see her lunge forward towards him, and then the camera goes down below, and then out of the silence, boom, his body just plops. Like, I thought that was awesome. That's the way you shoot a falling death, is because they didn't know he was falling. He wasn't screaming or anything, I don't think. Like, you couldn't hear it. And then he just hits the bottom. I thought that was awesome. But overall, like you said, this is where it gets not good.
Right.
Because I didn't like the shit. But damn, this is some well-made shit.
All right, guys, here's the finale. George asks Scarlett why is he here and what's happening to us. They hear a loud scream and follow it. They hear a fire crackling and see the cave lit orange at the end. We see this car lit on fire, and the man from earlier who told them where Papillion is in the car. Papillion yells out, "It wasn't my fault," as a force pulls Papillion to the man, who snatches him into the car, and the car goes into the ground. Only Papillion's feet stick up out of the ground now. They run away, and Zed says, "We have to go back and get him." George and Scarlett tell Zed, "Stay with us, we can't go back." They go deeper into the tunnel when they see a man in black hood walk in front of them. George tells Scarlett, "No matter what happens, the week in Turkey was the greatest of my life." The three continue on and see the man in black hood sitting in a chair. They see skulls protruding the wall, and the man in black stands up as they run away. The skulls now jump out of the cave and attack them. One bites George in his neck, and the two grab him and drag him away. She tries to use a stone on him, but it's not working. George tells her, "Vitriol." She says this isn't the right stone. She says she must go take it back. She tells Zed to stay with him and keep him safe. She takes off running, knocking the skull man down, climbing back up the ropes. A hand from a pool of blood grabs her and snatches her under, but she gets away. She finds a hanging person again and removes the covering on its head. It screams at her, and there are mouse on the ground trying to bite her. She puts a stone back and looks at her reflection. Zed drags George's body further away as Scarlett runs back to them. Scarlett hugs the hanging man, who's revealed to be her father. She apologizes, saying she didn't know he was in so much pain. Zed realizes George is dead as Scarlett grabs the camera, knocking another skull guy down. She kisses his lips and breathes life back into George. They hear more wailing noises and take off running. They get to a dead end and find another tunnel down. She tells them we have to rectify ourselves and jump. She asks George, "Why do you keep seeing your brother? Why is he haunting you?" He says he promised to come back with help but got lost and drowned. Zed says he has a child and knows it's his but denies it. She grabs his and George's hand. She can't go without them and won't. We'll go on 3. They jump and make it to the end of the tunnel. "We are trapped," and Zed begins to scream. George finds a manhole. They move the rocks out of the way and push the manhole down into the side. "Holy shit," they say. They throw their equipment out first, and Scarlett climbs out first and the others right after. They cover the manhole back, and Scarlett, George, and Zed all group hug. Zed walks away from them, and Scarlett and George hug again, crying. People say that I'm some kind of treasure hunter, but I'm not. I'm not doing this for financial gain. I'm a student of alchemy. It will be of great historical value. I want the truth as the film ends. That's what Scarlett says. What do you think, Brian?
First of all, Papillon's death. I mean, and by the way, I think that we've said Papillon's name like 4 different ways. So sorry, just like we're stupid. I don't know. I don't even. I think it's Papillon. I think it may be Papillion. I've said it.
I'm
4
just gonna
different
call that
ways
man
myself,
P. I'm just gonna call that man P. What's up, P?
Anyway, his death scene's pretty powerful in itself to me. My thing, like, so he does get a chance to repent, I guess, kind of. But I'm assuming that him saying over and over again that it was an accident means that he was unwilling to confess his sin, which, look, this one I got enough of. Like, I didn't need some big in-depth explanation of the past and whatever. I thought that was very well done. Oh, but the feet coming out of the ground, like, I know it's straight out of the manuscripts, and woo, it's disturbing as hell. And speaking of that, shit, Lucifer being shown, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, I mean, obviously the robed figure in the chair was Lucifer. And that's not what I would have imagined, but reading the explanation as to why they made him like that is wow. Like, listen to this. It said having his facial appearance that of an angelic baby-like figure, his face disfigured on the right side, like a fall victim. The appearance representative of Lucifer's fall from grace and descent into dimension for him. What would for him be hell? Like the right side of his face was disfigured to demonstrate like his aversion to good, and his baby face to represent his former appearance as God's most beautiful angel. Like reading that explanation is just wow. I don't even know what to say. Like that's so disturbing to me. It's beyond words. Egon said in Ghostbusters, "I'm sorry, Peter. I'm frightened beyond the capability of rational thought." That's me. That was me right there. But as far as the ending, like it kind of leaves me with a lot of questions. First of all, can you imagine if they didn't close that sewer lid and somebody's like taking a walk one day and then just like bam, seventh layer of hell. Thanks for coming, bitch. Like it's just I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny. But on a serious note, like I touched on before, I like Scarlett's arc and how it's kind of come to a close here. But like now that she is the stone, I assume, like, will she live forever? Like, is the power still inside of her? Will she end up the same as Nicholas Flamel and being some weird crypt thing, like never decaying? I don't know. I still have a lot of questions, but the ending was good. I mean, it was powerful. We'll go with that word. The ending was powerful.
Okay, so my man P's death here is probably my favorite scene in the movie. I think it's like you said, it's very powerful and moving. It's also really fucking cool looking. Like there's no other way to describe it. I mean, to get sucked into a burning car like that, and it, feet sticking, like all that stuff. I like that. Again, I really like that stuff. I think it looks really good as just a standalone horror movie and all the other stuff that you tack onto it. I think it's powerful. Really, really cool scene there, or cool. Again, it's really hard to like get the right words for this movie, but I really liked it. So we've mentioned Scarlett's character arc this entire time, and this is really where I start to love this character. There's at times where she's been annoying, that kind of like pusher mentality where you got to keep going, even though it's clear most people want to get the fuck out. But right here, where first of all, the stuff happens to George. You get these like cave-looking people, which, by the way, throughout this set of scenes, she throws the fucking Heisman on that thing like 2 different times. That's a Reggie Bush level stiff arm, my man. Like that is some incredible shit that she did. But anyway, all the stuff happens to George, and I found it really interesting that the stone no longer works. Obviously, they're too deep in hell. So nothing's really working. She has to go all the way back, which, by the way, she does that shit like a boss. It took them forever to get down there, and she just comes all the way back up, climbs that rope like it's fucking,
right? Yeah,
climbs that rope like it's 6th grade gym class. I mean, again, really, really cool to see, through that river of blood. Really cool effects there. I don't think the blood looks fantastic, but I get the point they're making, and so I think it comes across on the screen really well.
Hey, one thing I didn't even think about until right then when you were just talking about her going back, like the stone, they got the stone before they entered the hell, right?
Yes.
And like entering hell, that door was like gone, right?
Right.
Like that's why they couldn't turn around. So I guess it reopened for her to get back.
I don't really know. Like I know that door closed, but I'm trying to think if like this is gonna sound really stupid, but if she went the original way, like because I feel like that the door that closed was kind of a room they weren't supposed to be in, and like she still found her way back up their original way of going. Like that's the only thing I can really think of, man. But you're right. Once she figures it all out, and as above, so below, like the quotes and everything, and like sees herself and her reflection is like all of that. I think it's really good visually. It's interesting, very intriguing.
Very.
I love the shots that they get when she's rubbing the hieroglyphics is the only word I can really come up with. But I think really, really good shots here. Heals George. They go. One final thing I have is I understand how they get out, but like that was a really cool shot to see them come upside down from the sewer. Like I thought that was some really cool visual stuff that they did there. Very season 4 of Stranger Things-esque. Yeah. Honestly, just as far as, seeing the upside down from the real world. Like, so kind of, I really enjoyed that. And while I don't know how logical that is, it makes a whole lot of sense. I thought it was a really cool way in the movie. So it did leave me with a lot of questions, but I thought for what it was, I really enjoyed it.
I'm just glad that they put the manhole back on, because otherwise,
Yeah, I was going to say,
have some rando.
Do not leave that world open, for the love of God, man.
So, bam, 7th level of hell. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, and that's what, man. Could you imagine just taking one step into the 7th level of hell? Just, oh shit, my bad, man.
Nope.
It's not Raphael and Michelangelo down there.
No, man. One step in the 7th level of hell. That's called the current state of Florida State football.
Wow. Wow, that was unnecessary.
That was just unnecessary.
Unnecessary shot at myself too, brothers. That's why you got to have a backup team and a backup team to that team as well. Go Rebs and go Vols. Anyway, and go Owls. So this set of scenes.
Oh, my bad.
This set of scenes. I had to hop off for a moment, peek behind the curtain. So if I repeat anything you guys said, sorry. You're just gonna hear it in my voice as well. So this scene with the car down there reminded me of when I was a kid, and I'm like, "Yo, how'd they get that car in the mall?" But it's like, how'd that hatchback get down here? Like, that's some crazy shit.
Man, Dustin, I said that exact same thing.
Dude, you quoted it exactly like that.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Did I share my notes by mistake? No, Pat done got sucked down into the ground even deeper. That was a confusing death for me, honestly. I ain't gonna lie. Like, him getting pulled into the car and dying in the car would have been one thing, but they just sucked him into the ground and his feet stuck out, like one bare foot out of the ground. They got to try to pull him, but whatever. Homie in the cloak was eerie as fuck. That was my first thing I wrote down, and then upon realizing it was Satan, it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And then what you said, Brian, I did hear you explaining how he looked. Got a question for you. Which depiction of Satan is more unsettling, though? Because, when you hear the devil, the Satan, all this, you think this prickly red scale with the horns and the pitchfork and the pointy tail and all that. Yeah. Or if not that, you get Baphomet or something like that.
Right. That's kind of what I picture more than...
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, the others like very... was it Powerpuff Girls? Is that the one that had the red-faced devil cartoon? I don't know. But anyway, the others very cartoonish depictions. But in movies, we get usually the goat figure, right? But which depiction of Satan is more unsettling to you? This one or the way they depicted Satan in The Passion of the Christ? Because both of those were just so unsettling, man. Like, holy, I shouldn't say holy, unholy hell. But so we get a bunch of Han Solo and Carbonite motherfuckers that just come alive and start biting George.
Yeah, I got that reference.
Yeah, you got that one. The others don't, you fucking nerds. But they were honestly...
I don't understand the reference. Yes, I do.
These guys were some jobbers, though. Like, they served no purpose. She stiff-armed the fuck out of them, just got through them way too easily. Way too easily.
She Heisman the shit out of these guys.
Like, I fucking love that. She Bo Jackson Tecmo Bowled right through them. It's like no struggle at all. Okay, so then we get the hanging body again, and we find out that it's her dad at this point. So, okay, cool. And we get the fucking brutal jump scare. I'm fine with this development here, but why did we see the hanging body in Iran? That was what I wrote down, and I touched on that earlier. Like, that wasn't this hell cave. They should have just left that out, because to me, it would have made this one been even more powerful, because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it was so unnecessary earlier. Okay. So another issue I have is, girl, just take your time to the hallucination of your dad here. It's not like George is bleeding out from his neck. You're in no rush at all. He's just got a, cut in his throat and he's losing blood by the liter. And you're just down here hugging the hallucination of your dad's dead body. Like, nah, come on. Where's the logic there? But it was a little confusing on the ending here, because you're telling me all they have to do is admit something that bothers them and jump in a hole and they can escape. And I say bothers them because to me, you're supposed to admit sins. I don't think all these were sins. Like, my man went to get help. It's not his fault that his brother died. He didn't do anything wrong.
I hate it.
So anyway, so I do like the nod here again to Dante's Inferno. To escape hell, Dante had to climb down Satan's belly, which is said to be the center of the earth. There, gravity is reversed and down becomes up. So, but like I said, it wasn't
above, so below. Come on,
exactly. So George getting lost wasn't a sin. Scarlett not answering her dad's calls, that's not a sin.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I meant earlier. It's very, very big difference between those two, who to me is like, all they have is guilt over something that they didn't even do, in my opinion. and the others have like fucking serious shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be a nitpick on it, but it's just I wish there would have been something darker there. Wish there would have been something darker. So I do like how it was shot here, that they were underground but had to climb up, or down, which was up, whatever. Like I texted you guys when I'm watching this, like, damn, these motherfuckers done dug a hole to China. Remember when you saying that as a kid? Like everybody used to say, you keep digging, you're gonna dig your way to China. These motherfuckers did it. But the one thing, the biggest missed opportunity to me in this whole movie, though, is I really wish that when they did this and they stick the camera out and it's on the ground, I wish that would have given us a shot of the Eiffel Tower that was used on the poster. We don't even see the Eiffel Tower in this movie.
No,
what the fuck? Why is it on the poster? I get it. It takes place in France, but that was such a missed opportunity. Maybe they didn't have permits to shoot there. Guess what, man? You can digitally impose that shit. Stick the camera out there. It's a green screen, Eiffel Tower. Boom, you're done. That bothered me for some reason really badly.
Such a weird thing. That's such a weird thing to bother you.
Well, I mean, come on. The whole time I'm thinking look at the poster. I'm thinking the Eiffel Tower is going to come into play somewhere. But no, instead we get just they climb out and they're in some random parking lot. But overall, it's a pretty good ending to a decent movie that I don't look forward to watching again. Go ahead.
All right, before we move on, the only thing I wanted to comment on, Dustin, was your thing about her seeing the hanging body in Iran. My only explanation for that would be is she's looking up, or she's doing the research her dad did. So I'm thinking maybe that's just some trauma maybe she's seeing as she's doing this. That's my explanation for it. If that makes sense, it does. If it doesn't, oh well, I tried.
I mean, okay, I get it. It's just I don't know. I guess personal preference. I wish they had.
No, but I feel you if it bothers you. I mean, I get that. That's just me attempting to explain it from the director's point. But any more final thoughts on the ending? All right, before we move on to fun facts, I want to welcome legendary blood donor and new teammate to the show, Kevin Scanlon, to his legendary blood donor pick. How you doing, Kevin?
No, how we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing good. Good to hear you. Yeah, go ahead, Nico.
Also, Dustin, what are you talking about, man? The Eiffel Tower was there in the end credits.
In the end credits? Come on, I turned this shit off as soon as I saw the first credit. I ain't watching no more of this devil movie.
That's true.
Well, at first credit, you would have seen the Eiffel Tower then.
I stopped watching. I closed my eyes. Once I realized everybody's alive, I turned it off.
Don't you know that Dustin's opinions are not up for debate? God damn it.
That is true, and they also are a reflection of this podcast.
No, the fuck, they're not.
They are not.
Oh, I always confuse that.
Reflection of this podcast.
I don't know what I'm doing right now. All right, Kevin, welcome to the show. It's nice having you. We appreciate you picking this movie, legendary blood donor pick. Right now, we're about to pick up with our fun facts section. Brian, do you want to go first, or Mike, Dustin, whoever has fun facts?
I only have one, so go ahead, Dustin, if you want.
Well, I was going to say I had some, but we said them throughout the show. And then the one I was saving for the last was the explanation of each layer of hell. But I decided to do that one early, so go ahead.
Okay, so the headlamps the characters wear are actually upside down. And this was apparently just most likely done so the light didn't shine into the cameras. Just a little fun fact there, but that's all I had.
So, so this movie had a budget of $5 million. And against that budget, it made $41.9 million. So really, successful movie for one that obviously I've heard of, I've seen before, but not one that's, outside of the horror community isn't super well known. So that, it's good to see, it make a good bit of money, especially a movie so deep, in story. So really good.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. Let's jump into our favorite kill, least favorite kill in the rating. Kevin, this was your pick. Do you want to go first or last? Ricky Bobby.
Yeah, I'll go last.
Okay. Who wants to go first? All right, go ahead, Dustin.
All right. So as far as the kills go, my favorite kill was Benji. Like I said, it was just a wild scene altogether. And then him just falling out of the silence to his death was powerfully done. I enjoyed it a lot. My least favorite kill was Pap. I'm not going to say his full name. I don't know how. But getting sucked into a burning car and then into the ground, it was just a weird way to go. I mean, all this is weird ways to go. They're being tormented in hell when they didn't die. But regardless, that one it was kind of just okay to me. As far as my overall thoughts and my rating, so it's a very unnerving movie. Like I said, I don't know what it is about it, but it made me unsettled. It's not even necessarily the religion aspect to it. I guess maybe it is, but even the imagery that we see is just unnerving. No more. Okay, I don't think that you can physically dig to hell no more than you can physically climb to heaven. Like, that's just a personal thing, I guess. I get what you're saying, Brian, with the Tower of Babel and everything, but so that to me wasn't what made it unsettling, because it wasn't even a religion thing. But I like the found footage angle, and it just really takes it over the top for me because it was well done. The shaky camera is I know is a big pet peeve for Nico, but it just made so much sense. They were documenting this. They were historians. They were trying to find this shit. So anyway, did I like the movie? Hell no. Will I watch it again? Absolutely the fuck not. But I do think it was a well-made movie, and it was a very effective horror movie.
Yeah.
And side note, I think this movie would be an incredible video game concept. Like each level of hell being a level with different bosses you got. Like I thought it would be an incredible video game. But overall, I thought it was a well done movie, and I give it a 7.75.
Okay.
All right, I'll go next. Favorite kill was Souxy. I wrote her sin isn't explained that much, but it's a nice jump scare from Latope and pretty brutal head bashing on the ground. I like that. Least favorite kill, I chose Benji. I agree with you, Brian. I heard you say this throughout the show. No explanation of his sins, and I felt like he went through the most for no reason, and I just thought his death was kind of meh. So I enjoyed that. Here's my final thoughts, and I just want to point out that Kevin tweeted today that he thought I was going to give this movie a 2 or in that ballpark. So just keep that in mind. So I wrote, so I enjoy this movie much more on another watch after watching Foundflick's explanation video. Knowing this movie is basically Dante's Inferno, it made me appreciate it much more. I think the acting is quite good. The setting is dark, creepy, and claustrophobic. It also has a few good jump scares and creepy moments. This movie feels like Grave Encounters and The Descent had a child. My dislikes are, first off, the found footage aspect. This one, and I don't hate that it's found footage, but just the elements. This one isn't terrible, but the shaky cam annoys me, and it's just hard for me to believe that if these three escaped this and put this together, they'd edit it this way. That's just me. And I feel like this camera should have broken after all the crap it went through. That thing didn't have no OtterBox on it. A lot of the characters' death scenes weren't explained, and it's frustrating. The ending also gets a bit hokey to me. The skull figures popping out of the cave and the mouse on the ground. I also feel like the movie can be too smart, like Brian said in an earlier episode. If I have to do all this research to understand your movie, that's not good to me. Anywho, my rating, Kevin, is a 5.75. I liked it much more after another rewatch with more understanding.
By the way, OtterBox, if you'd like to sponsor us, hey, come on.
Absolutely. We all iPhone gang.
Okay, I'll go real quick because mine's pretty short and sweet. My favorite kill is Souxy. I kind of mentioned it. I think it looks really cool, very violent. Just really thought that was a great kill. My least favorite is also Benji. While I actually don't think it's that bad, I just think it's kind of the most boring of all the kills. Are they really kills in this movie? They're more, only one's really a kill, I guess. But anyway, so my thoughts on the movie. Look, I kind of said it off the top where I think this is a good movie, even standalone from all the backstory with Dante's Inferno. I think when you get into that, it makes it more layered and nuanced and much more interesting. To say that I enjoyed it would be a stretch just because this is not a movie I put on to enjoy,
Right.
but it is a movie I can put on and say, damn, that was intense. Although the first 35, 40 minutes or so is a little slow, a little boring, but man, do they pick it up in the last half of this film. So all that being said, I gave this movie a flat 7, which was also the rating my wife gave it. She told me to mention that on the show because she said it 4 times. So just so y'all know, Catherine Settle's rating is 7.
Okay, anyway, so mine's super short and sweet. Favorite kill, Souxy. My least favorite kill, I actually didn't pick one. I'm going to cheat here because to me they're all good, and I don't really want to pick one that I like to be my least favorite. So I'm skipping it because you know what? I can do that shit. Whatever. So Dustin said the word unnerving, and that's 100% great description to me. I'll also add the word powerful. And I watched my most recent rewatch on this one was last night, which obviously doesn't mean anything to anybody listening to the show, but I was wide eyed at 12 o'clock my time, texting the group text and being like, I just fucking can't sleep because this movie's stuck on my head. And that's one of the things that I had to say about Paranormal Activity. This is the same way. This movie will stick with me for a long time. And I'm 100% with Dustin. I don't enjoy the movie, but it sticks with me like that. It really affected me. It's fucking well done. I'm going to give it an 8.25.
Well, then, I'm going to be the weird one then and say I actually thoroughly enjoy this movie. Now, I'm with you guys. I think Souxy was easily the best kill. That was brutal in every possible way. The sound effects of her face just slamming in. Oh. And my least favorite has to be Benji, mainly because I liked his character. And a lot of it had to do with not knowing why he was killed.
Right.
Like there was no backstory for him whatsoever. And also, further glance at it, like when his body hits, like it almost looks dummy-like when it hits. So it just didn't look great to me. So for my positives, for me, I really enjoyed the open. It almost kind of had like a Tomb Raider vibe to it. Like she kind of felt like a Lara Croft type.
Yeah.
Almost a similar storyline there. Good pacing for me, in my opinion. Pretty creepy and claustrophobic feeling throughout. So yeah, I can understand where people think it's slow for that first 30, 35 minutes, whatever it is. But I always get that feeling of creepiness throughout.
Yeah.
This is a big one, I think, for Dustin. They did justify their use of found footage for this. By putting the cameras, on the headlamps. So I mean, did they need to carry around the other camera? Probably not, especially when all the shit's hitting the fan. But obviously, it's going to be recording the entire time with those headlamps on.
Yeah, Dustin actually did mention that earlier and give it some credit.
Yeah.
He also bashed The Great Cloverfield for the same thing, but we won't get back into that.
I did not.
We won't get back into that. I'm sorry, Dustin, you're cutting out.
I didn't bash The Great Cloverfield. I bashed Cloverfield.
See?
Another positive, honestly, for me was the acting. I actually thought like most of them were great for their roles, especially Edwin Hodge. I thoroughly enjoy him. I think he's a highly underrated actor. But in terms of my negatives, I mean, the ending for me is weak. I think it would have been more effective had none of them made it out alive, personally. Zed, throwaway character, not sure why he survived. It didn't make sense to me that he survived and Benji didn't. George should have bled out long before she got back. I mean, you got Scarlett going straight fucking beast mode on these dudes. I don't know where that strength came from, but she's hauling it. She still had a long way to go to even get back.
Yeah.
And then she stops for all these different reasons on her way back to try and heal him. So that George should have been dead long before that.
Absolutely.
And then some of the dialogue there in the last 15-20 minutes between her and George was a bit cringy. But I mean, all that for me is kind of nitpicky, which is why it really doesn't bring my score down a whole hell of a lot. So I give this a 9.25.
Nice. All right.
Okay. So you'll have to give me just a second. I accidentally closed my calculator, so I don't have our composites real quick.
That's a little peek behind the curtain. Dustin uses a calculator.
Yeah. yeah. My damn abacus is still in the shop.
He doesn't do it.
My world has been shattered.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of thought you may be Goodwill Hunting up there doing equations. And
No, it's more like Andy Samberg. It's more like Samberg, and that's my boy. Beep boop beep calculating. But anyway, It's too dark in here to use my abacus, so my calculator says our composite score is a 7.35.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's like a 6.8 or something like that on IMDb.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I probably brought that average up a little bit. You guys were probably more spot on.
It is a 6.2 on IMDb. Here's the funny thing, though. So I've been doing, like, I don't do anything with them, but I always like to look at the Metascore and then the Rotten Tomatoes scores of the movies we review. The Metascore, because those are like actual critics, right? The Metascore on IMDb for this one is a 39. The Rotten Tomatoes score on this one is a 27. Go to hell. Go through the ninth gate. Don't keep going.
Hey, Dustin, with that, they actually did not pre-screen it for the critics.
Yeah, that's true.
They had to watch with everybody else.
So maybe they were just pissed off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
Fuck you, critics.
Also, I wanted to mention, you were talking about the optics of Papillon's death, which I thought looked terrible. But the reason why I understood it is because that was like the punishment at that layer of hell for I don't remember exactly what the group was, but I mean the punishment was buried head first up to your calf.
Yeah.
So that's why the legs were sticking out.
Okay.
That sounds terrifying.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no shit.
Yep.
All right, guys. Kevin, just want to thank you for being a legendary blood donor, being on the team. Welcome to the team.
Appreciate it.
Y'all got any final thoughts on this before we just shout out our blood donors?
No.
Kevin, I just want to say I appreciate you scaring Brian and Dustin. These kind of movies terrify the hell out of them.
Come on. I ain't scared of shit, pal.
And he appreciated it. See, this is kind of bullying we have to take on the show. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not. Let's move on. I'm bullied more than anybody on this show. All right, shout out our blood donors. Our camper level reoccurring are Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, Sean Irwin, and Adrian Aiello. Our camp counselor recurring are Hunter Nelson, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home podcast, Karen, Heather Smith, and Kylie Denise, all the way from Australia. Our legendary blood donors that we have film reviews to do for are not anymore, but Kevin Scanlon, appreciate you again, and Michael Azelson. Our final guide donors are Christian Cunningham and Mr. Matt Sears. Just want to thank all our blood donors. We really appreciate y'all. Times are tough as hell right now for in the economy, and the fact that you make financial contributions does really means a lot to us. Kevin, just want to thank you again. So I enjoyed this movie a lot more than you thought I did, and I told the guys before that I was like, can't wait till Kevin hears my actual rating. But I'll be honest, man, I really liked it a lot more after understanding what I'm watching more, not just a bunch of, just honestly just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. That's what I kind of thought the first time I watched it. But sometimes you gotta learn, be smarter than what you're doing.
Yeah, hey, 5.75 from you. That's respectable. So
on a found footage
flick. Exactly. I'll take it.
Footage?
That's over twice as high as Cloverfield. But anywho, let's wrap this up. Y'all have a good one.
God damn you.
Just want to remind everybody.